1.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a call to order for the meeting of the Teaching and Learning Committee. Today is Tuesday, October 20th. The time is now 5:33 p.m. Present in the meeting are myself, Chair, Mr. Lombard, Board Member. We got Mr. Superintendent Testani. Who else we got? Ms. Alicia Robinson, Dr. Black, Mr. Robert, I forgot his name, Robert Arnold, Dr. Black. Anybody else I'm missing? Mr. Planis. And I believe that is everybody. And Mr. McLeod and Ms. Fauci. Okay, first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes dated August 25th, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I will second that. I find no material errors or omissions. Mr. Lombard, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
All right, hearing no corrections. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Extensions? None. Hearing none. Motion carries. Approved. I'll entertain a motion at this moment to move up item number 5, distance learning update, in place of number 2.
So moved.
And I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Testani, take it away with the distance learning update, please.
Thank you. So just to give everyone an update, we have continued to stay pretty consistent at almost a little under 9,000 students that are working fully remote, and a little over 10,000 students that are participating in in-person learning currently. There is, still strong feelings amongst some families. When we did mention that we would be moving to a hybrid, some families were concerned that the remote option was being taken off the table. We did assure them that that is not the case. The hybrid would be for the in-person learners. So we still have, obviously after even short period of time, strong feelings from some folks that the remote is the best option given the current climate with COVID-19. So we respect those folks. We work extremely hard to make sure we're engaging all our remote learners every day. Some challenges that are being discovered throughout the first 30 days of school is, number one, cameras being turned on. That's been a huge obstacle in some cases. Folks questioning, especially some of our high school folks. We are requiring the camera to be on. Teachers cannot engage with students remotely in an effective manner without the camera being turned on. It's clear in our remote expectations that students are supposed to get up every morning and prepare as if they were going to school. Teams, as we all know, has the option for virtual backgrounds or blurred backgrounds if there's not a comfort level of having your home displayed on camera for the rest of the class to view. So there is no reason why students are not preparing themselves to go to school in the remote setting. This is not lay in bed, in pajamas. This is get ready and be serious and participate in your classes. And so that's something that some folks are struggling with. We're going to keep reiterating that. I think it needs to be communicated on a regular basis from schools, not just from the district level. So that's something that will be discussed tomorrow, especially at the elementary level. Having parents that are more engaged in the classes has become an issue at times with parents calling out on the camera, calling out during the sessions, some inappropriate talk during the sessions. I mean, we're not the only district that's experiencing this, but we really want to make sure that parents and students are aware of the etiquette when it comes to participating in remote learning. We're working with families that are having connectivity issues or could potentially have connectivity issues during the hybrid. Yesterday, we've been getting some complaints about the free internet service. I think there's some conflicting information that it's, depending on where folks are trying to accomplish getting free internet access. The Altis program that was offered back in the spring, quite different now. Schools have been compiling information on families that may need internet connectivity. I got a better understanding yesterday, Jeff and I, after I reached out to the State Department of Ed and voiced our frustration that some of our families were having with Altis One, scheduled a meeting. I got some clarity from Altis. They are behind in this process. There's no hiding that. They have not even begun to reach out to the names that we submitted. The district did submit over 1,900 family names to be sent to Altis for confirmation. Not everybody will be approved. I did find that out yesterday. It all depends on their eligibility. And most of that has to be them being disqualified because they're already current customers. So this program is not to supplant those who currently have service with Altis, that they would be able to remove it and get it for free for 1 year. So Altis is very clear that these have to be new customers that are not currently receiving service from them. So in the next week or two, they will be contacting families to set up times for them to go out and do the installs. So that should help resolve some of the connectivity issues that some of our folks may be experiencing. And for those that down the road could possibly lose service because, a parent loses a job or something along those lines, we could also send those names in at a later date for approval. We also have the option of some hotspots that were provided to us that we could provide to families that are in need. That's what we've been doing, plugging holes right now. But the state would like us to utilize the Altis deal that the governor has entered into with Altis first and foremost prior to shifting over to using the hotspots. But we've been desperate. Some families are really struggling. And I think the State Department of Ed on the call yesterday found out that some information that they didn't realize, that Altis was behind in working with Bridgeport families. That being said, we're getting close to the end of the first marking period. I think we've settled in, as some of the teachers have mentioned to me over the last couple of weeks when visiting different schools, that we're getting better every day at delivering instruction remotely, as we do have students in front of us in person. So I think little by little we're getting better. I think they're really putting forth a lot of hard work and effort to making this work. This is not a traditional method of teaching and learning, by no means. We're trying to be very patient, and we're asking families, and I think everyone's been pretty good at being able to understand the challenges that teachers are also facing. So a lot of credit goes out to our families and our students that at home that are participating remotely. The patience has overwhelmingly has been good. There are pockets, obviously, of frustration on some folks' part. As we discussed at our last board meeting, we will be looking to move to a hybrid model as we get into the winter months to try to reduce density within the buildings. And I think the main reason is to limit the disruptions that we have as cases have popped up across the district. But overall, I think we're moving in the right direction. I think teachers are becoming more comfortable. Not to say there's still not a level of frustration, but I think it's lessening each and every day. We're trying to manage it, and it's just a new territory for everybody during this difficult year of remote and live in-person instruction. Any questions?
Mr. Lombard.
No, I don't have any questions.
Yeah, I got a couple. How many students that signed up for remote are basically disengaged?
That's a good question. I think, I think we're seeing a little bit more popping up in recent weeks. you know, at the high school level, it's kind of like what we would normally see during the school year. You know, the beginning of the school year brings newfound energy to some of the kids that may have been disengaged the prior year. It's kind of like a New Year's resolution, I want to say. Kids really come in like a ball of fire. It's going to be their year. They're going to turn it around. And then as time goes on, some of them maintain that momentum and that commitment to improvement. And then some kids kind of fall back into some of the same old patterns. But I know that staff at the high school level in particular have really done a good job reaching out to families. We're still trying to, it's a little bit more difficult this year. The first month of school, especially at our comprehensive high schools, you're trying to shake out some of the kids that would normally feed into ninth grade that may have gone to, Bullard Havens or charter schools or private parochial schools to get them off the rolls because no one informed you that they wouldn't be coming to Bassick Central or Harding. So I think that process is still happening at the high school level because of the confusion we have with in-person and remote. But so I think we'll know a little bit more in another week or two on what the disengagement numbers are. But I think overall they're much, much higher than they were from the feedback from our staff than it was in the springtime.
Right. And does any of those disengaged students factor into our 800 enrollment down, numbers being down in enrollment in any way?
No. So the only way they would be affected in that number is if we found out that they're no longer, attending a Bridgeport public school. They've either left the state, left the district, or have taken up in a technical, parochial, private, or charter school.
Because I'm finding this really, really strange across the state because it said, I think I just read 15,000 across the state.
Yeah.
And it seems counterintuitive because real estate purchases are up in the state. We're currently experiencing an inflow because of people want to move to a less densely populated area. So if we're experiencing an inflow of residents, we should be experiencing a rise in students. And it seems like this is a problem across all the districts. So I think some of these metrics hopefully may change shortly.
Yeah, from what I understand, that parochial school enrollment has increased. That's what I was told. And some of the charter school enrollments have increased. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but I know just from some folks that I've spoken to that some of the parochial numbers are up from the last 5 or 6 years. I'm not sure if that was done in anticipation of us not going full-time 5 days a week. I don't know the rationale for that. I've heard the same thing about increase in folks coming from New York into the state of Connecticut. I've also heard from people that the home sales and the home buying is not as it's been advertised. So I don't know what to say.
Right. And as far as, another question, as far as people disengaging from the system altogether and choosing to homeschool, do we have a number on that?
I can get that number, but I know I've signed quite a few of those this year, and last year the number was minimal. But I'm going to say there's been a significant increase in the number of parents that have chosen homeschooling this year compared to last year. Significant.
And I would assume they're probably going towards some of them little helper programs.
I'm going to assume that you're probably right, Mr. Sokolovic, that there's some other support system in place rather than just a traditional mom with a desk and a little chalkboard at home.
Right. Yeah, and that's concerning. I think in probably 1 year's time we'll get all them students back because the programs really most of them don't have certified teachers because they're not required because they're not teaching the child, they're just assisting the child with homeschooling.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mrs. Kovic, I do have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Lombard.
Thanks. Just curious about what the feedback has been from teachers who are teaching to both in the classroom students and online students at the same time, as far as support, specific types of support they may have expressed that they need, or what their experience has been like. Because I had the opportunity, not here in this district, I was in New York, and I was in a classroom where this teacher was doing just that, and I was really in awe of what had to be done in order to make that happen. So I was curious what kind of feedback has been.
Well, I think it's been a bit frustrating from a lot of the teachers I've spoken to. We've tried to give them some support in terms of how to arrange the day. I think that was an important component, that they were turning the camera on at the beginning of the day and then keeping it on, trying to engage the students as if they were there. So managing the time, blocking the time better has been something we've supported them with, and principals, so that they can support their staff. We're trying to encourage principals to identify teachers that are exemplary, and for them to give them opportunities to support teachers within the building. We have the academic support team in the IT department, who are excellent in providing PD sessions that are then put online, and teachers can go and refer back to them. But I think it's tough, particularly from an elementary perspective. That's been the consensus, that the elementary students, especially the pre-K 2, pre-K 3 teachers, are having the most difficulty. We're really trying to encourage parents to send kids in. I think, especially at those grade levels, it's imperative that they get in person, face-to-face contact with teachers and interaction with peers. We've gotten more to come back, but not nearly enough.
Yeah, I know. I've heard different people say different things, like, well, I kind of teach to, and I'm not talking about our district saying this because I'm involved with other parochial things outside of the state. I've heard saying, well, I kind of teach to the students that are in my room at the time. And then I can't like teach to the kids that are on the screen and to the kids in the room at the same time. Although they can, I'm not saying that it can't be. Some of what I've heard, that it's such a challenge to be able to give focus to somewhere, and I just was wondering if that's been a common experience.
Yes, it's definitely common. I think one of the things that the hybrid model, especially in some of the smaller enrolled grade levels within schools, could bring is the combining of in-person, and teachers can then, one teacher can focus in what their area of strength is with the in-person, and then the other teacher can focus on the remote, and then they can swap off. So we're going to give teachers in schools some latitude and flexibility on how they can schedule this. This might be a good time where we can separate the two within the school day and focus, because we are going to the hybrid, so that might be more helpful.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, I would like to give a shout out to all our teachers, especially from what I see as a parent who has experienced both sides of the equation, that this model is beautiful. Like it's like they seem to be doing a great job. I know it's costing them. They got to be exhausted, definitely, especially some of these teachers I see popping up. I keep my son's teams open sometimes at night. I forget to sign out because I check his assignments, and then I'm getting notifications of 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, papers getting graded and sent back with feedback and all that. And having listened to a couple of online classes, the teachers seem to be going back and forth between the students and being able to call on the students online and teaching in front. And a lot of districts don't even have this model, and it's problematic. Some districts would have 1 day on, 1 day off. They got some districts with the Distance Learning Academy, which seems to be a disaster, according to what I'm reading in the paper. And then they got another private firm helping out. And it's really a mess, because when all these kids come back from school, come back together after the pandemic, we're going to have kids at different levels of learning. And some of these models are even only getting half a curriculum done. And I think we got a good chance with this to actually slow the divide between the other districts. I think we may be able to gain some ground in this, the way our teachers are stepping up and doing the work. And I give them shout out and kudos for that.
Yeah, I think you're right. And teachers have done an amazing job. Administrators have done an amazing job. It's not been easy for anyone. And, I think we need to recognize as much as we can the great work these folks are doing every day. Hopefully we can return to some sense of normalcy. We are probably one, if not one of maybe less than a handful of districts that have not allowed any teachers to teach remotely from home, unless they've been quarantined and their students are home as well. So, we've really made sure that our in-person students are getting the in-person experience they've asked for from their certified teacher, and that the remote are getting the same quality from the same instructor. So the work and the instruction is consistent.
All right, I'd like to recognize at this point that Mr. Benahan has entered the meeting. I'm not sure quite when you came in, Albert. I see your hands up, though. Have you got a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to be sure, I was in the meeting. That's why I put my hands out, for the record. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you see your name. Oh, there you go. Yeah, okay, I see. Okay. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have no question, but I can, if I might have a comment. And let you know, to Mr. Testani, that I know a lot of staff and teachers and principal and assistant principal, but they're doing a great, amazing job. Everybody know I never agree for open the school, but I have to give it credit for all this principal, assistant principal, staff, custodian, cafeteria. It's not easy what they're going through, and they're doing an amazing job. I know they're trying to do the best. We're not perfect, like always say. At least we're in the same page like a team. And I know they're doing a good job, and I have to give it credit for all the staff from Bridgeport School. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there anything else on distance learning that we haven't touched on, Mr. Superintendent Testani, and any other questions, Mr. Lombard?
I don't think there's anything, but if you have any further questions, I'm happy to answer.
I'm all set, thank you.
Yeah, I'm all set too. So I guess the next item up on the agenda, we'll pick up number 2, which is now number 3. And before I start that, it's going to be a curriculum review and cultural relevancy check on social studies. Before I start this process, I'd like to make it clear that this is not an attack on teachers and what they're doing. The system has been in place for so many years, and teachers are teaching what they were taught to teach. So as we do these reviews and possibly find holes and needs of improvement, it's not a reflection of the teachers, it's a reflection of the system that is in place. I've often been told that education is like a giant cruise ship. It takes a long time to curve and shift. But the thing about cruise ships is they can move awfully fast when a wave hits them. A rogue wave hits them, and we got a wave right now that leaves us ripe for change, and I think we should take advantage of that opportunity. So with that being said, Mr. Testani, take us through social studies.
Well, it's actually a perfect time that you're bringing this up. We are at a the end of a 6-year social studies cycle. As many folks know, we've not had a director of social studies for now, I want to say at least a decade or more. I don't want to be specific, but it's been a long time. So I've convened, and we're having our first meeting just to kind of go over what the charge is of a social studies curriculum renewal and review committee. Middle school and high school are on the table. We've put together a very good group of administrators that are great building leaders, but also have a background in teaching history in our district, that were very good, exemplary teachers, award-winning teachers. So they will also then from their buildings bring folks that teach history, that are exemplary teachers, to participate in the committee so that we can look at the curriculum renewal and for 7th and 8th in high school. Currently, we do offer in our high schools African American, Latin American studies, perspectives on race. So there is, cultural relevancy within the curriculum, but I think we can do a better job and a deeper dive when you look at the entire history curriculum. When you look at U.S. World history, we do have some criminal justice courses depending on what school, and those types of courses. So I think as now graduation requirements for the state of Connecticut, we're in year 2, second class, high school class under the new graduation requirements. It's a good opportunity all around to do a deep dive into our 7-12 curriculum.
Yeah, like, as I said, it's definitely not a reflection on the teachers. And as we build this curriculum, I'd like to show you. This is the book right now. This book is about 6 years old, and it's definitely, I would like to say, Eurocentric, as is most of our things. What he does in defense is also a secondary book being used, which does a deeper dive into the Native American history. But what does get kind of glossed over is the settling of America by the settlers. It goes into doesn't really touch very deeply on the Native Americans and their removal from their lands just yet. I'm not sure if it goes into another grade or whatever have you, where they really do a deep dive into the Trail of Tears and stuff. I didn't learn that until college myself, so I don't know how extensively they go into it in the grade schools. But it says, when New England was settled, conflicts arose with the native peoples, which the native peoples were defeated and the Americans were able to stand. And that's basically the deeper dive it goes into. Now, I'm not sure how much of that we can control, but also another thing I'd like to mention is part of the state requirements on the Holocaust and genocide. They do a real deep dive on the Holocaust in the K-8. My son could tell you about the Holocaust, but he can't tell you about one other real genocide, which if you look at it, what happened to the Native Americans was a genocide. Because they numbered in the millions in the country, and then they numbered in the thousands or the hundreds of thousands eventually. So that's basically what I would like to look at, is like just to get more and go into that. I know this book got some African kings in it as well. I like to make sure that gets touched on and all that. And it's like we just gotta keep these kids involved. Our children, they identify with the subject matter they're learning, they will definitely be more engaged than they would have some English king from 1600s, 1500s, and the more relevant the education is to them and the people that look like them, the more engaged they'll be and the more successful they'll be in life. And maybe we'll stop losing them at such a high rate.
Agreed. Like I said, I think this is the perfect opportunity. We're in the renewal cycle. I think putting together a strong committee of folks, giving them a framework to work around in what we're looking to accomplish here in Bridgeport is going to be the charge. And before we settle on anything, obviously the board will have input and a vetting process through this committee. So I'm excited to take this challenge on and see if we can change the game, so to speak, here in Bridgeport moving forward with our social studies curriculum.
And do we have a tentative timeline for this?
Yeah, I'd like to get this done and in place for next school year. So we're going to give the folks a charge. I believe the meeting's on Thursday afternoon. I'm meeting with the folks, kind of give them a framework and, have periodic, probably biweekly check-ins to see where we're at. And we can probably, if not in November, definitely December's meeting of the Teaching and Learning Committee, give you some updates.
Right. Yeah. I'll circle back in. I could give it to December. We'll circle back and just get a quick update on this. I'm going to go through basically a cultural relevancy check of all the disciplines as going forward, just to touch on it, and then we'll circle back to social studies as well.
Sure. Absolutely.
And we're gonna the committee. Well, are we gonna do new textbooks and all that too?
Yeah, we're up for everything. So.
And we're gonna have the standard community input on the text and whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, you said you got to take off, Mr. Testani?
I got it. I got a little more if you have any questions. I don't know if Mr. Lombard has any.
I apologize. Mr. Lombard, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I was just curious about, I know it hasn't even begun yet, but with the social studies, with the review and so forth, is there something that is or could be worked into the overall curriculum that in some point in the year takes a specific look at current events and current social trends? Because, the texts are set, the curriculum is set, but as we know, sometimes certain things are very timely and happen right in the moment. I'm just wondering if that's something that's already incorporated into a typical year-long curriculum to take an actual dive into that particular moment in time, what's going on as well. Just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, obviously the civics class is the perfect opportunity at the high school level, but you would think that good teaching would connect the present day with the past as well. But I that's well noted, and I'll make sure that something that we provide that context to the committee.
Thanks.
Yeah, and to my personal experience, he's in sixth grade was doing current events, and they have been touched on, and I believe there's also something like CNN 10, a channel that students get to listen to. I'm not sure if they're doing it in seventh grade, but I've heard of it being done in the eighth grade.
One of the things that we're really looking to push, especially just across all disciplines, but this is the perfect opportunity, is really incorporate project-based learning, where I think that will be a lot of the ties to the current events and current happenings in our society, that students will be able to create projects and they will define their learning through the projects they develop. And I think they're going to be more interested in looking at what's happening in our current society, our current world, and tying that to the past. So I think all of what we're doing with project-based learning needs to be incorporated within the curriculum renewal process here in social studies. So Victor Black will have a big hand in this, and the team up at Fairchild Wheeler, who's been a champion of project-based learning over the last several years, and then those folks would have already presented and done a lot of extensive work last year, and we're trying to build upon it this year.
Yeah. Anything else, Mr. Lombard?
No, thank you.
Yeah, just before I call on you, Mr. Bernard, I just had a thought where there's some things we could do without changing the curriculum. Not to call out anybody, but when they're doing skill building in like history, like analysis and such, a lot of times it's a bunch of white folk to analyze a photo or something European. I mean, if the skill building is analyzing a photo, perhaps it could be a photo that includes people that look like them. Sure. And the teachers listening could keep that in mind to maybe encounter again. Like I said, it's not a knock on the teachers. Fabulous, y'all awesome. It's how you were taught to teach, and we're in a new day. And if we could just look at that dispassionately and not get offended, and just be aware of our blind spots, because you can build the same school. You could build the same skill with a picture of white folk, and you could do a picture of black folk, and then same analysis could be done. And that's something that wouldn't require a curriculum overhaul. It just requires a intent and way to do it. This is just an idea.
Absolutely. I think every educator needs to learn and grow throughout their career. Sometimes it takes getting outside of your comfort level, but we need to encourage that and we need to support that because we're here for kids. We're not here for staff. We want to provide them the tools to teach our kids, but ultimately we're here to service them. So your point is more than well taken.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Benahan.
No question, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think that's all we have for you, Mr. Testani.
Thank you.
Okay, now next up on the agenda would be, where's my agenda? I lost it. Okay, one moment, please. I got to read the exact thing. Curriculum review and cultural relevancy check in the arts, and I believe that's you, Ms. Robinson. Take it away, please.
That is me. Good evening, everyone. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, so you should be able to see my presentation. I do tend to speak quickly, so if you need me to slow down or pause at any time, please just let me know. So last school year, 1920, we started out with our department goals focusing on high quality arts instruction, culturally responsive teaching, and equity and access. And you will see that there's a shift from last year's goals to this year's goals that still include high quality arts instruction, but moves from culturally responsive teaching to cultural competence and SEL and the intersectionality between the two, because one really should not exist without the other, and equity and access. And so the shift from culturally responsive teaching to cultural competence came from a bunch of sessions that I attended over the summer on cultural competence, anti-racism, and abolitionist teaching. And one of the sessions I think did a really great job that stuck to me with breaking down the differences between the language and cultural awareness, responsiveness, and competence. And so they defined or described cultural awareness as being aware of cultural diversity, but not responding to the varying needs that diversity brings into the classroom. And so from a teacher perspective, that would be just uniform instruction, regardless of the differences of the students. Cultural responsiveness was described as being aware of cultural diversity and responding to it, but not knowing exactly how to apply those specific strategies to build relationships and increase student engagement. And so some of the strategies under cultural responsiveness might be in incorporating diverse imagery in the classroom. And that's excellent that students see representations of themselves. But with cultural competence, that would mean that teachers have demonstrated a mastery at their ability to meet students where they are. And they're looking at and dismantling systemic practices that push out marginalized populations. So that's kind of where my change in language came from. As it pertains to high quality arts instruction, the tool that we use to implement is our arts curriculum. It is National Core Arts Standards Aligned, which is a set of standards that the arts adopt. It engages students in the 4 artistic processes, which are creating, produce, presenting, and performing, those all count as one, responding, and creating. And ultimately, at the core of visual and performing arts instruction, we're teaching the elements of music and art and the principles of design. With our curriculum, there is no scope or sequence because the materials aren't standardized across the district. So we do give teachers autonomy to implement the curriculum based on their available resources. For example, one school might have a kiln and thus they can use ceramics to teach shape and value, but another school might use photography or painting to teach those same skills. And it's the same certainly with music. Tempo and dynamics might be taught through African drumming at one school and through ukuleles at another school, depending on the materials and resources that they have. There are some modifications that need to be made to the curriculum, such as explicitly identifying and categorizing diverse artists and musicians so that teachers have right on hand a set of individuals that they can refer to and implement in their instruction. And we should be adding more resources such as websites that have been proven to be beneficial with remote learning. But otherwise, I've been supplementing cultural competent resources through professional development over the past year and change. The last time the curriculum was reviewed was in 16-17, and that was for 17-18 implementation. And so this is just a snapshot of our national core art standards. There are the 4 artistic processes and the 11 anchor standards, and that is threaded throughout all aspects of the arts, performing arts, media arts, even theater and visual arts as well. And this is an online tool that teachers are able to use. The way that it looks in the curriculum is a lot user-friendly, but here you'll see the anchor standard and the enduring understandings and essential questions, as well as the grade level specific skill that each of the students is supposed to use. It does go up through 12th grade. I just wanted to provide a snapshot. That's for music. And then for visual arts, the same thing in the same format with those specific grade level skills. So as I talk about the professional development, in 1920, we started talking about culturally responsive teaching. We had conversations on bias, privilege. We used Zaretta Hammond's culturally responsive teaching in the brain as a text to engage teachers in discussion. We discussed deficit thinking versus asset thinking, microaggressions, redlining, and other systematic factors that have contributed to the opportunity gap that exists within our district. We read and discussed articles on the different types of cultural wealth and had a discussion on how to use and view students' culture as a capital or an asset. We examined quotes like these that were used to spark conversation about the mindset that some of our teachers might have coming into an urban district. And we also examined the different types of privilege that exist and conducted a self-assessment of some of the practices that our teachers have in place that stem from our biases, such as calling on girls more than boys or calling on white students more than Black and Hispanic students. And these are implicit practices that we're not aware of. So we did have a discussion on how to recognize and change some of those behaviors and practices. But even with all of this work that was done, I think that there was still a compartmentalization of culturally responsive teaching. And after the end of last year, I really did sit back and I reflected, and I felt that it was a result of how I modeled culturally responsive teaching. And so when we had the discussions, it was compartmentalized. It was, we're talking about, SEL first, and then we're talking about culturally responsive teaching next, and then we're talking about goal setting after that. And so it was important that as we shifted to this year, that I modeled exactly how all of this intersects with the work that they're already doing. So the focus for this year in professional development is social emotional learning, curriculum, and equity. And I made sure to kick off our beginning of the school year, back to school sessions. We started with the land acknowledgement. I included visuals of pronouns for every presenter that was presenting for all of the sessions. We did mood meter check-ins at the beginning and at the end of the session. We had art space SEL breaks at every hour, and they were quick activities that teachers could do. And the hope was that they would then be able to incorporate those into their instruction as well. I included activities and visuals in English and Spanish. I was sure to and very intentional about including diverse imagery of student artwork that was represented from students of different cultures. And all of these strategies were embedded. It wasn't until we got much later in the formal presentation on cultural competence that we reflected on the practices that I had already integrated into the PD that were culturally competent. So it was an opportunity for teachers to really reflect on what has been happening thus far that was integrated in all of the sessions and kind of pick those things out so they could see it's not something extra that I did, but really how it was supposed to work together with with how I was facilitating my PD. We did have a specific discussion around artists and the importance of teaching about diverse artists outside of Black and Hispanic Heritage Months. And then I also gave examples of Black and Hispanic artists, but I didn't stop there. We then engaged in a conversation about other marginalized populations that weren't represented in my examples. So I intentionally, when choosing the Black and Hispanic artists, chose males who were able-bodied and cis-hetero so that we could explore artists from other cultures and backgrounds. So another way that I've been in cultural competence has been through our district program. So all of these are programs that we have typically on an annual basis. Obviously, last year with the pandemic, we had to cancel some of those programs, but most of them are coming back this year in a digital format. I always, as they come up, share opportunities for contests, performances, and showcases as they arise. And these are all opportunities for students to use and channel their voices through their artistic expression. And it provides a constructive and creative outlet to channel their emotions and really give students agency. And so that's that cultural competent piece and the SEL component as well. Another way that we're integrating cultural competence is through our partnerships. And I am very intentional about how I use the word partnership. I think sometimes organizations come in and they want, they offer a lot, but it's not necessarily based on a need that we have. And so the partnerships that we have established are organizations that are working with Bridgeport Public Schools Arts Department to meet and achieve mutually beneficial goals. And so an example of that would be with City Lights, and they provide artist residencies at no cost to us. They do all of the fundraising and grant writing on their own, and then they partner with us to actually bring these artists in residence. When we could be in person, it was in person into the classroom with the classroom teacher there, and they have moved to a digital platform as well. And so we've had students across the district that have been exposed to yoga, Native American artistry and beadwork, Afro-Caribbean music, dance, and printmaking, all by local artists that often look like the students they work with. We also have, in helping to close that opportunity gap, Keys, who very similarly to City Lights does all of their grant writing and fundraising independent of Bridgeport Public Schools, and they actually provide one-on-one and small group lessons to students for free. Once the pandemic hit, they were typically in the schools and under the direction of the music teacher. However, once the pandemic hit, they have a really strong parent component to their program, and so they were able to move to a digital platform and continue to provide lessons through online. And that happened March. They were able to switch, and they continued on through the summer, and they are back again this school year. One of the partnerships that I am just the most proud of, and I just cannot say enough about, is with the Quick Center for the Arts, and that's entitled Arts for All. And so Arts for All is a partnership with the Quick Center with Bridgeport Public Schools, and we are committed to providing arts access, high quality arts instruction, and exposure to diverse arts experiences to meet the varied needs of our students. And we do this through increasing exposure to dance, visual art, music, and theater through artist residencies, workshops, internships, community-based performances and presentations, and this year we're actually expanding it to include mentorships and educational programs for teachers. And so last year, before the pandemic, we were able to bring groups of students at no cost to us to the Quick Center, and artists and residents oftentimes, and actually every time, reflected the cultures of our students, led students in master classes and workshops that explored themes such as cultural identity, breaking down barriers, addressing real world issues, navigating identity, and creating more access to the arts. And so this year, having to move to a digital platform, we found that we were able to, and especially in planning for the spring, they're able to take a look at the artists that they are going to be contracting and looking at, on my end, the curriculum in Bridgeport Public Schools and seeing where there's alignment. So that means that through virtually, teachers will have access to live performances, recorded performances, but also panelist discussions of artists that, of a particular performance that they may have watched. We'll be able to tap into the artists as well, which is, I think, a really great opportunity. So I said a lot in a little bit of time. I was very intentional, as I do with my staff, and using artwork that comes 100% from the kids. And, this is just an example of cultural competence and how we had a teacher actually at Fairchild Wheeler High School during the pandemic created a project around social justice, and students were able to depict their emotions and feelings through whatever imagery they felt was appropriate to them and tailored to them. And this is one of those images.
Wow. That's all I can say. Wow. I was thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. That was awesome. There's a reason I put you up against social studies very first, because I pretty much knew you sound very impassioned about this work and very passionate about the cultural competencies, and it reflects through your presentation and through your work. I got a couple of questions though, but as far as the PDs, were all our teachers required to attend these PDs on implicit bias?
Yes, so the Back to School Professional Development engages 100% of music and art teachers, and we typically have some PE and library media teachers because they don't have a department head. So I very unofficially represent specialists, and so any of my sessions are open to any specialist, but music and art are required to attend my PD.
And what kind of follow-up do we have to ensure it's being implemented?
That is a wonderful question. So we have ongoing discussions throughout the year. We were a department that actually started utilizing Teams prior to March. We kicked it off in September of 2019 and used that to engage in ongoing discussions about the content that was presented in a more formalized format, such as the Back to School Professional Development. I also, when I'm going into classrooms, those are things that I'm looking for and listening for and providing feedback on when I'm doing the observations.
Okay. Can you tell me what resources were used for these trainings?
Yes, there's a lot. So a really big one, Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain by Zaretta Hammond, which I always have at all times. It's an incredible resource. It is a pretty easy read, and I know it's something that Carrie, the SEL district coordinator, has led like book discussions with teachers as well. I attended probably 6 different sessions just between the pandemic, so March through August, September of this year, hosted by like the National Education Association, Turnaround Arts, the Kennedy Center, UCLA. Actually, I had to miss a great SEL session tonight. That was from 6 to 7:30. So I have the personal interest, and because of the students that we serve, I know how important it is. And because of our content area, I think it's one of the easiest lifts to integrate this work into what we do. So I have my personal interest in this, and then go out to either do readings or attend professional development. So I can send you the list of professional development sessions that I've attended.
Yes,
also using resources like We Want to Do More Than Survive by Bettina Love, and How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi are just some of the texts that over the summer I've been
awesome. If you could forward all that to me, I would definitely appreciate it. Cause I don't know if you happened to catch yesterday's meeting or the last committee. The newest committee of the board is to integrate all this, and we're going to be looking for trainings for us board members.
Awesome.
So it'd be appreciated. Thank you so much. Mr. Lombard, do you have any questions?
No, I just want to comment. That was an amazing presentation. Thank you. I don't
Thank
have any
you.
particular questions, though. Like, that's it. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you very
Benahan.
much.
Albert? Hands up.
Hello, you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Robinson, I don't have no question, but I have to tell you something.
Okay.
And I want to say in camera, you're doing an amazing job. You're doing a great job. It's honor to work with you. From the day one, I never see somebody have that passion, take care about the kids, take care about the community. Bridgeport School, you're amazing. Your presentation was phenomenal, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much for everything you do, and I hope you stay for us long time because people like you, that's what we need our district. Thank you so much for everything. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. As long as you guys will have me, I'm here. I did want to add one extra note, if that's okay.
Sure.
It doesn't pertain exactly to curriculum, but indirectly it does. I'm very active and engaged in the hiring process for my department, and so I contact 100% of the candidates that apply for a job, but I do ask a question specifically around cultural competence and ask potential candidates to define it, as well as provide examples of what it looks like in their classroom, so that even if they don't have the answer, it lets me know kind of if they are hired, what their starting point is, and it lets them know that this is a focus and a priority within our department.
Awesome. Yeah, I got another question actually. It's probably a little related. Plays. Are we going to do any plays this year?
We do have the licenses for them at all of our turnaround art schools, and our teachers are just figuring out how to make it happen with the social distancing limitations that are in place. So provided it can happen, they're going to, and we are looking at the licenses for the virtual audiences and the live streaming as well. So we may not have the 11 or 12 that we typically do, but we will have some for sure.
Yeah, I was looking at I don't know if you ever caught this on Netflix. There's this show called Social Distancing, and everything is on the screen like this, and everything's like a show. And that shit kind of cool. I wondered if we got anything. I mean, can we do anything electronically?
Yeah, I think what we'll be looking at is having the students in person, possibly, depending on what the spring looks like, a limited audience. And if a limited audience isn't a possibility, then having a full virtual audience with the live streaming, with having the cast in person, because the cast in person would be similar to having the students in person, which is appropriate.
And would we be allowing students who, if that happens, allowing students who are remote to participate?
We have not had that conversation yet.
Yeah, it's something to think about. I don't know which way it would go, which way I would be feeling about it, but it's just something to consider, because I know, like, some schools open up the sports. If they're remote, they could do sports, but we're not having sports in our district, so it doesn't work. But that's something to consider.
Certainly. And I will definitely bring that up to all of our musical directors as they're figuring out how they're going to navigate musicals this year.
Right.
I will definitely bring that to their attention and let them make the decision they feel is best for their students and their production.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Robinson. Is there any other questions? I think everybody, all the board members asked questions, so I think we're done here. And thank you so much for everything you do. And please forward me that list. I would really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. God bless you.
Take care.
Okay, next item up on the agenda is special education update. Last but not least, Mr. Arnold. Next time I will have you first, so you don't have to wait around for the whole meeting.
That's okay. How's everybody doing?
Pretty good.
So, what do you have a handout that Tim printed for you?
We got in our portal. I gotta go.
I just want to know what pages first.
Hold on. I always gotta go find the portal. It's a little difficult sometimes. Here we go. Yeah, portal. Okay, hold on. We do got a whole bunch of stuff. Hold on.
Yeah, we have the summary statistics. We have, let me see, going to the next page. We have the specialized instruction update. We have the evaluation timeline collection.
Yep. So I'm going to start with the first one, special ed update. And in the beginning of it, it shows the previous resource students who received special ed transportation. That's the first page I have.
Okay.
Do you have that? So we are down from 19 till now. We're down about 50 people, which is a good thing. And we're still working at, so those are resource students who get special transportation, and most of them don't need it. So we're working with the schools to try and get rid of that for them. But we have to do it through a PPT. The next thing up there, so we do have to keep kids now till they're 22. I guess due to COVID, we're out in March. So now they want us, they had a Supreme Court ruling, so we have to keep kids till their 22nd birthday right now. So we used to leave them when they turned 21, but now we have to keep them till their 22nd birthday. And that's, and the link is right there. I put IEP students there because in 2011 we had 29 and now we're at 4385, and I'm assuming it's probably going to be a little bit higher this year, because as of March we stopped testing and evaluating all students. So I put what we missed last year was just below that. We have about 581 reevals, 361 initials. And then I added our thing for this year. So we have about 3,200 evals to complete this entire year. But I worked with Marlene, and we're having our special ed teachers work extra hours, 3 hours for each student. And we're really getting through a lot of those. I don't have a total yet, but Natasha, my clerical, is helping me with that issues. Let's see. The next page is the initial evaluations. We only did, last year we had 545, and that's referenced in the, I included one of the sheets, the initial eval timeline, and that matches. The reason we're so low is because, you know, March 13th, we stopped assessing everybody. And so now we're really trying to make up for it, because in a state reporting, it has to be done by 12/5/20. So we're really trying to get all of that stuff done. Let's see, out of district placements, we have 11 this year so far, but we had none for March, April, May, and June last year. We had none because we weren't in school. And then, so out of district placements, we have at the university school, which is a school, I think it's kind of down the street from us. It's not state approved. We have 23 kids there, but we have 34 slots. So we're really trying to push. We prepay them. So we're really trying to push to fill that up. We have 40 at DRN, which is not a state approved school. And then 337 total kids out of district. And 5 of them are on homebound, but they don't know if they're going to a school. We just don't have a school found yet. So. Do you have questions on any of that stuff?
Question and an observation about out of district placements.
Yep.
Looking at September and October.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we got 5 this year versus 4 last year, and in September, and 6 versus 2 in October. Can you explain that somehow?
I mean, sometimes.
I know you can't control it. But.
No, I know. So sometimes we go to a mediation, and at the mediation means a state person comes down, the parents in one room, I'm in the other room, and they go back and forth. And most often they go out of district because we didn't educate them appropriately. And that comes from the schools.
And what type of barriers or what type of student challenges are we unable to meet for the most part that we could probably shore up our ability to reach these students so we don't have to send them out of district?
So what we're doing right now is we're really focusing on data. Like, what does the state consider? It's like, you can't tell me I did this, this, and this, but you have to show me. So our attorney wants data. So not what you did, but what can you show at the PPT that you did to the parent to say, look, he's doing great here. He doesn't need to go out of district. They don't have that. I shouldn't say that. A lot of teachers don't have that. And that's one of our goals in the special ed department, is to teach them how to get that. What do you need to do to get that data? That's one of them. The other ones are, so the kids that go to DRN are from Harding, Bassick, and Central, and they go there because that's where they do best. Do you know what I mean? So they'll go to like Boys and Girls Village, they'll go to CES, they'll go to a lot of schools, and they don't make it there. So John at DRN really helps us out with that, because if he didn't take them, it would be tough to place them.
Could you give me the initials? DRN, what's?
Oh, Disability Resource Network. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. No worries. Now we know.
Yeah.
Okay, and the new state law hitting 22 years old. 22
Yep.
years old.
Mm-hmm.
What do we have any anticipated hit on our finances for that new?
All I know is we're getting calls from parents who want their kids to stay in school until they're 22. Some of them have already exited. On their 22nd birthday, they're done. But some of them turn 22 in like July, or in June. Do you know what I mean? And so we have to keep them a whole extra year, most often at an out-of-district placement.
Right, and I love the fact that we deliver these services, but the reality is we've got to pay for these services.
Oh yeah.
Is there any extra money attached from the state with these mandates?
I don't know if there's extra money, but we keep very good track of how many kids are out of district. Marlene would probably know the answer to how much money we actually have.
I think I'll make that a topic in the next finance committee.
Yeah.
If the state's gonna pass a mandate, they need to throw extra dollars for us to fulfill those mandates.
Yeah. I know.
District placements are most expensive, and
yeah,
our most vulnerable students are also the most costly
to
educate.
I get it.
All right. Questions on this segment, Mr. Lombard?
No, I have no questions.
Mr. Benahan?
No, Mr. Chair, no question for now. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Arnold, can you continue, please?
Yep. So I do have, so right now there's 15, and then I just hired a new supervisor because one of my supervisors left the district. So there's 16 certified special ed teacher vacancies in Bridgeport, which is super. It's not good for us, but I call the state every week and I say, this is where we are. We're looking to hire. I have one person who's a retiree who'll do PPTs. I drop the computer off to her at her home, and she'll do them. And then I also have, I told you I have the teachers who are working extra hours. Did I tell you that?
It may have been when I was in the restroom, but I don't recall.
Yeah. So. And basically they work 3 extra hours and they assess people after school. So we can't catch up on how many evals. We have a ton of evals to do across so many schools. And we have a group of teachers who signed up for that. They get $38.50 an hour. I mean, it's good for them. And it's good for us because we're going to stay in compliance. Do you know what I mean? We have CPI training, I guess. We have CPI training set for the next 2 months, probably 4 days a week. We have 2 people who are trainers of trainers in Bridgeport. one at Roosevelt and one at BLC, and they're going through that. We opened up a new transition academy in the basement of Central, so we were paying $38,000 to use the Wakeman Center. We've stopped that and we put it into the basement of Central because there are 4 classes in a kitchen that were never used, and it's Transition Academy it's called, and it's there. And there's 34 people in that and 2 teachers.
So was that part of the plan that we weren't moving forward on? And
yeah, so initially we sent an RFP out, request for proposals to all and they came back at a couple people came back at a super high price. So I said, we can't do that. So we went to Central, we walked into the basement, brand new building, the kitchen never been used, and we made that a transition academy. And so if you drive around the side and then the back, you can go in the back and go right into there. So it's not part of Central, but it's at Central. And we don't spend the $40,000 a year. We keep that in our pocket. So, and I think, I mean, my big concern is the fact that we don't have all these special ed teachers. The state knows, but so if you're not a certified special ed teacher, you cannot do the individualized education plan. You can't you can sit there, but you can't talk. So they have to have certified people sit there and talk. And I know Fairchild is missing 2, and they have like 100 special ed kids. So they're concerned. And I know I 100% get where they are, but there's nothing that we can do. You know what I mean? We're looking, we're hiring. Everybody's. Yeah, it's just we actually got 2 people back from Norwalk, which blew my mind. But we're working on it. So.
I see Mr. Benahan has his hand up. You got a question now, Mr. Benahan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for Mr. Robert.
Yeah.
Mr. Robert, when you said we got 16 vacancy, is here for Bridgeport, and why the reason if it's for Bridgeport? Are they trying to hiring? The information is out from the human resource, so we can try hiring more special need teachers.
We have there's probably maybe 25 posts for schools up there for special ed teacher, but nobody's applying. I mean, you can go on there and type in special ed teacher and like 1,000 posts will come up and no one's applying. So it's I don't know what to do. So that's my biggest concern right there. So
in other words, the teachers we have now, they are working more than they're supposed to be working.
They're working super hard, the special ed teachers. Yeah.
No, we understand that. We appreciate that, but I know they're working very hard. It's not easy, but wow,
Yeah.
we have to say thank you for that. I appreciate that. So
yeah.
Yeah, as to Mr. Benahan, to your point, special ed is normally a shortage area, and right now with the pandemic, every single district is competing for these teachers, and I think every district is having the same issues trying to recruit with special education, and especially with substitutes and all that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, I agree with you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, could you continue, please, Mr. Arnold?
Yeah, I think that's everything that I have up here.
What about any open complaints? Any new complaints?
Well, we have one. People went to due process, and I don't want to reference names, but they didn't follow what they were supposed to do. So that's one that we're working on right now. The complaints we've had a lot of them, and we've sent them back with all the data, and then there's no corrective action, which is really, really good for us. But I think we only had one mediation, and that's and they didn't follow what they're supposed to do. So
we're looking good.
Yep. So.
Okay, is there anything we haven't asked or touched on that you would like to make us aware of about special ed? And
I don't think so. I mean, that's kind of in a nutshell. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any more questions for Mr. Arnold? Mr. Lombard?
No.
Mm.
Thank you.
Mr. Benahan?
Yes, one more question, Mr.
Yeah.
Arnold. So far, I know we're looking for special need, but so far we not have what we have right now. I know we stock, we are tight, but so far we not hiring no special need teacher, nothing like that at all, right?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's it. Thank
Yep.
you, Mr.
Okay.
Robert, for everything you do.
Yeah, no worries.
Mr. Arnold, thank you very much for everything. Everybody else, thank you for your attendance and your participation. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
and I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Get home safe. Be safe. Have a wonderful week and month.
You too. Thank you. God bless you all.
Bye-bye.